Hello everyone, welcome to Spot On. I am your host, Kuye Samiat, and I'm glad you're here today. It's Thursday again, and we're bringing on another remarkable creative. Last Thursday, we had the honor of speaking to Sholakbe Azazi, who actually, showed us a different way of looking at the word inclusivity. This week, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Our guest for today is a culture oriented storyteller. He is a powerhouse, a creative powerhouse whose work transcends genres and borders. Our guest is Yusuf Alabi Balogun, widely known as Aremo Gemini. He is a poet, a storyteller. Please tell them to go on our website, register for Spot On. There's a link there to register as a guest for Spot On. So they can go on our website and register for Spot On our website. And every Thursday, you really have to be here because we have many inspiring sessions that go on here. So you don't want to miss any. Ensure to share the live with your friends and family. I have invited Aremo Gemini. I am just waiting for him to join us. I know everybody's excited for today's session. And I really hope we have an inspiring session with him and network doesn't cost anything. Every author that we bring on air is special, and we always hope to have inspiring sessions with them. Hello.
Good afternoon, Samia.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Spot On.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well. I hope you are too.
Absolutely.
I hope you're excited for today's session.
Definitely. I look forward to the conversation.
Okay, I look forward to you too. So let's start from the roots. What does the name Aremo Gemini mean to you, and how does it reflect your artistic identity?
So I started out with the pseudonym Gemini, and from the obvious element attached to it, Gemini is an astrological name. It was just a name I found out of curiosity back then, and I felt like, at least by the Nigerian standard, we have a culture of attaching pen names to our creative journey. But then when I delved into Yoruba art, when I delved into Yoruba craft, I felt like it was a clash of ideals to claim to be a cultural revivalist, yet have a post-colonial name, so to say. So I had to pick Aremo, which means prince or heir apparent in Yoruba language. And one of the adjudging reasons why I had to pick Aremo was because there are predecessors before me in the lane of culture. And maybe these people are heavily acknowledged or celebrated as they should be or not. But that does not actually stop them from being predecessors. So whatsoever new path I am starting, I am basically doing it because there have been more people for me. And of course, it reflects in my craft and why I do what I do.
That is a very nice answer because he explains why you had to incorporate a Yoruba name with your love for the word Gemini. You are a poet, a speaker, and more.
Yeah.
Which of these expressions came first for you, and how did the others follow?
Well, I've always been a writer all my life. I mean, from childhood, I was not the kind of child who had the chance to explore environment. And because I did not have the chance to explore environment, it was the typical get inside kind of life. You go to school and you have to return back home and all of that. So writing was my only way of expressing my inner thoughts. And prose, playwriting. It was not until I got out of secondary school before I started delving into poetry. So I would say poetry came first. Then, alongside delving into public speaking and most recently podcasting to poetry. And when you look at it, when you look at it from the raw bottom, everything boils back to speaking at the end of the day. Everything boils down to ingenuity at the end of the day. So I feel like they are all interlinked around the same idea of writing and performances.
Yeah, it really shows the fact that you are a creative powerhouse because writing, basically expressing yourself through writing, doesn't mean everybody actually shows it to the world, but you stuck to it and you showed your work to the world, which you're even being celebrated for. Your work, Segilola Aromire Ogiton, I don't know if I pronounced
Yeah,
that correctly.
you
It
do.
blends genres and pushes the boundaries of traditional Yoruba storytelling. What inspires this form of storytelling?
So I feel like as much as we live in an era and an age where there are so many people who are women especially who are refusing to be silent, there's this thing about women not wanting to inherit the silence of their foremothers. I still feel like there are a lot of people, men particularly, who feel like these people are just angry women who are, looking for an opportunity to just, vent out their rage unjustified. I feel like I have a responsibility, not just as a griot, but as a man, to tell these stories that affect women. Because if we say, oh, the women should tell their own stories by themselves, then that means that we are accepting the tag of perpetrators. And I believe that evil is not gender based. I believe that evil is human, so is goodness. But I mean, the statistics at the end of the day, when it comes to femicide and male abuse, tends to swing on one side than the other. So I felt like I had a responsibility to tell these stories as raw and unfiltered as, and because I do Yoruba storytelling and I grew up reading Yoruba books that are heavily based on morals, and they don't delve into some of these conversations like feminism, domestic violence, abuse. They are topics that people believe that they are delicate, and because they are delicate, they rarely go into it. I felt like I had that responsibility to, shatter that old conversation. And if you are trying to create a generation of new people who, will learn to respect women, who will learn to live an holistic life, which ideally are the children we are raising now, I feel we have a duty to give them a kind of literature that redefines their ideology. Because when you look at men and you say that, oh, this man is badly behaved, it reflects on the kind of art he consumed while growing up. So if we are raising children, it is not enough to just, tell them that this is left and this is right. We have a responsibility to create new literature that informs them, that, put them where exactly we want them to be, how exactly we want them to be. And then, away from the populist idea of, oh, we wanted to promote Yoruba culture. That was why I wrote the Yoruba book. Yeah, probably. I mean, that's like the first thought that comes to everyone's mind. But outside that, I actually wanted us to, be better humans and learn to respect our women because I believe that, the women are the source. And the Yoruba says, oh, the bad Orisun, so we cannot keep saying that we are solving the migration when we are still disrespecting ourselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And your words resonate with me. Let me tell you why. Because I'm also a final year student, and my project topic is in line of how women have been silenced based on a natural description that men should be higher and women should be like, submissive, and they should be kept indoors in the kitchen and all that. And it's so nice that you're using your voice to teach even men, and you're a man yourself, you're using your voice to teach men like you that this is not how it should be like this, and that makes a lot of sense. So storytelling goes in different ways. It comes in English, Yoruba, and different languages. What role do you think telling stories in indigenous language, what role do you think it plays in shaping a child's consciousness?
Well, so I one of the reasons why I started art, or should I say I delved to art in Yoruba language, is because of nuances. Now, we have a problem of translation in our generation. We always want to translate everything to fit into the, colonialist idea. So when we hear Shango, for example, we want to translate Shango to God of Thunder in English. But no, that does not encapsulate the idea of who Shango is. And now, when it boils down to storytelling in indigenous language, if you want to tell children their stories, if you want them to know about their roots, and you want them to be aware of that nuance, you have to tell them in a language that is original to them. I mean, why should I have to be telling children the story of Ijapa and Yonibo, and I'm telling them in English? So if I translate Ijapa as tortoise, for example, what will I translate Yonibo as? It makes no sense. But when you tell them in the raw language, they fit into the culture, they fit into the nuances, they have a primal understanding of how it works. And one thing I try to preach every time, that when a language dies, what dies with it is bigger than the language itself. It is identity in its real self. And when you begin to tell people their own story using another language, you are taking away their identity from them, and you are forcing them to clench into a foreign man's identity. There is nothing wrong in them understanding their rooted story, and then them having an idea. I mean, I know about the Trojan story, I know about the Roman stories and all of that, but I know about the Yoruba stories way better than every other story. If you go to Europe or England, it's very easy to tell them a story about snows, and then they relate to it because it is prevalent in their society. But snows does not fall in Nigeria. So imagine me telling an Alo, and I'm trying to translate Iri as snow. It makes no sense. So when you tell them in their indigenous language, one, you preserve their identity. You make them realize the value that is inherent in their roots. And that way they grow up being proud of their culture. And that way they do not grow up to be children like me, who actually grew up at some point in my life. I grew up watching movies of Adileye and Adileye primarily, Kotoaye and the likes. And they did a lot of disservice to my understanding of Yoruba culture, because it literally made me see an old woman sitting innocently in front of her house. And I'm thinking that, oh, this old woman is a witch, simply because that is the form of storytelling I have been exposed to. So it is one thing to tell a story using the language. It is another thing to tell a story correctly using the language. But when the two boxes are ticked, the children grow up respecting their culture, knowing their pride, identifying what is wrong, what could be better. And that way they grow to be better humans who are not detached from their identity.
Identity, yeah, it really is something to be preserved in every walk of life, because Yoruba is a culture that is very rich, and we should not just throw it in the back seat. I like the fact that you're bringing Yoruba to the limelight, and you're not just doing it in Nigeria, you're doing it across borders, because you've collaborated with artists from both Nigeria and other countries up to South Africa. But there's one question that really bugs me. How do you navigate merging cultural voices without diluting yours? I hope you get my question, because I mean, when you collaborate with somebody from South Africa, for example, their cultural is their cultural like tradition is probably like a little bit different from ours, Nigerian culture and South African culture, without diluting your own voice. I think I cut off. Please let me use this time to remind you that Spot On is for every creative, whether you're a storyteller, a writer, an illustrator, a comic book writer, every sort of creation, even if you're a spoken words artist, or you just, use dance to tell stories. every creative should be seen. So we're using Spot On as a platform for the world to get to know you, the world to get to see you, and get an idea of what you do so they can be inspired too. Because somebody can just be in their room one day and just come on to Spot On, listen to you, and it's like, I want to be like this person. So it doesn't defy the fact that you could be an inspiration, something to look up to. Let me say someone to look up to for someone you don't even know. So we're urging you to please reach out to these people, tell them not to be shy, let them go on our website to register as a guest for Spot On. They're going to get here, trust me, and we're going to explore their lives, their stories, their vision, and their voices, just to inspire young adults and future generations that are going to be showing us what it truly means to be a creative and bring more people into the world of creation. This is Yusuf Alabi telling us about how he's bringing Yoruba culture to global stages. You could be one bringing Igbo culture to global stages. You could be the one bringing Hausa culture, that I'm interested in, Hausa culture to people. So there's no saying you can't do it, you can do it. Stop letting fear and doubts cloud your judgment and making you not want to do things you should actually be doing. I think the network is bad on Aramo's side. I will try to bring him back here because a session has actually been very interesting, as of every other session we've had here. So please share the live with your friends, let them join in and see what we're doing, the magic we're unfolding. Hi, welcome back.
Yes.
Welcome
Yes,
back.
the
Did you get
networking.
my question?
Yes, I did. Nigeria is a kiddo. So, I think that one of the things I learned early enough is that, the beauty of language and culture by extension is in its diversity. And I will give a reference. So when I worked on beginnings and endings with William Ross, who is from Cape Town, South Africa, it was we purely do not understand each other language. I do not understand the language. He does not understand my language. We just have an idea of each other's culture. But when we deepen it, we realize that though the tongues may actually differ, emotions are the same. So when someone is happy, whether a Nigerian or a South African, they express it through laughter, through smiles and all of that. When someone is sad, they express it by breaking down, through tears and all of that. We do not say because I am Yoruba and then the next person is Igbo. When is sad, the nature of expression differs. No, it does not differ. So what we look out for, or rather what I look out for most of the time, is not misappropriating my own culture or my own language to fit into that person's culture or language. Rather, both culture shines, but the emotion reflects. Because when an ending, for example, to be very honest, we just knew we wanted to create something, and then we created something and we placed it out here. Now, someone reached out to me last year and said, she had a very serious case of insomnia, and for every time she listens to the work, it helps her sleeping. It is weird because when you actually listen to the work, it is two identities, it's two culture, and even we that created the work, we did not, create it with the intention of creating a sleeping pill. But because emotion is already established, people interpret words. It's more like what is it called? It's more like reading. It's more like reading. So when you're listening to an Igbo guy singing, for example, you probably do not understand what he's saying, but you travel through the emotions, you travel through those readings. And what it sparks in people is curiosity. So when you listen to beginnings and endings, for example, You want to know about the Yoruba culture. You want to know about, the African culture. And by that way, two cultures are kept alive without necessarily misappropriating or subjugating one for another. So it's a slug of emotions rather than language in itself. Because if you actually go by language, trust me, everyone will be creating in English just so everyone can understand. And even when we look at it deeply, there are still some of our parents who actually do not even understand English while growing up. So what happens to, those crop of people? What matters, what should be preserved, what we should keep in check is the emotions. And that is what I try to do every time I have to collaborate with someone, speaking another language.
Okay, that shows the inclusivity, like you include their emotions and yours, their language and yours. It doesn't really have to like merge, you just have to work out. And we've spoken
Exactly.
a lot about your work. How do we get to see this amazing work of yours?
Wise, performance wise, I'm always having one performance or the other. I don't stay at home, so there is every possibility that keeping an eye on my page would like everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, my videos are literally everywhere. And for my book, Tegilola Romero Gidon, is available for purchase in Roving Eye, and there's also a digital version of it. There's a digital version of it on Sailor, and I run a podcast, Jomi Toro, which is on Spotify.
Okay, that is nice. And your work, would you like to do like a few minutes showcase of your work before the ends?
Okay, okay, so that is let me rendering I'm actually rendering this particular form. I performed it for the first time in December, and I think I've taken this form because it kind of reflects around the idea of motherhood. And I, ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí oyin, ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí ìwúre, a pé ọ̀kan làwọn, ìwọ kò ní rìn lọ́jọ́ ebi ń pànà. Lọ́gán tí mo bá ti jáde nílé èmi a rántí pé ọ̀nà níkùn tí ń pòfo ló eji. Ahọ́n ọ̀nà ń ṣàfẹ́rí bá sí ẹran òun kìkìdá egun ẹ̀dá. Àrùn káló, àmì káló, kọ̀lọ̀kọ̀lọ̀ gbé nǹkan mì sẹ́nu wúyẹ́. Èmi mọ̀ pé ọ̀nà ọlọ́fun tí ń pòǹgbẹ ẹ̀jẹ̀. Èmi mọ̀ pé ọ̀nà níkùn tí ń pòfo ló ebi. Ṣùgbọ́n kébi ó pànà pajù pátá kò dé padà ọ̀nà òní láéláé sèmi dohun àmújẹ. Nítorí ọ̀kan làwọn, ìwọ ò ní rìn lọ́jọ́ ebi ń pọ̀nà. Ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí adùn, ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí oyin, ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí ìwúre. Ọ̀kan làwọn, ìwọ kò ní tójú oorun dójú ikú. Lọ́gán tí mo bá ti fara lélẹ̀ síbùsùn, èmi a máa rántí pé àjò lorun. Ìrìnkèrindò lébùté àlá, sírànrán òun ò gbé. Bá a bá kagi àjàlá kájù ẹ̀dá lè dànù tí ò ní dìde mọ́. Wọn a máa pé ó má sì sùn ní òdì mọ̀. Ó kígbe tò látojú oorun wá ní òbá mímọ́. Ṣé bẹ́nìyàn ṣe ń papòdà rèé? Ó ṣe wá ló dàárọ̀ lálẹ́ àná ó ti á jẹ́ àjò lorun. A sì máa runi lọ bí ó bá wù. Èmi mọ̀ pé ikú ní fara wé orun kì í fara wé kù. Ṣùgbọ́n bórun di Ṣàngó tí ń pàràgbà kò sì pagi yílá. Igi yílá tèmi a máa dá dúró gedegbe nítorí ọ̀kan làwọn. Ìwọ ò ní tójú oorun dójú ikú. Àsíá la hàn ìyá mi, àsíá dójú ilẹ̀ mi. tí ń darí sánmọ̀. Yeye mi mọ gbogbo ojúlé tó wọ̀ bùdó adarí sánmọ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n èmi kò mọ̀. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni tí ẹ̀ wọṣọ aláwọ̀ sánmọ̀, èmi ò tiẹ̀ mọ̀. Bí mo wọṣọ olómi aró, èmi ò mọ́lé awẹ́dẹ́wẹ́ mọ̀. Àsíá làwọn ìyá mi kì í sí iye tọ̀ nípa ìwúre, nípa ẹ̀bẹ̀, nípa àlọ́, nípa ẹ̀sùn, nípa omijé, àpáta ìmọ̀ràn ti kìrìtìtẹ̀ yeye mi, agogo tí ń gbomi ló gbohùn rẹ̀ sílẹ̀, kọ́mọ ó lè dàgbà dògbò, kọ́mọ ó lè gbáyé pẹ́ gbáyé ṣe rere, kọ́mọ ó lè yàn, kọ́mọ ó má yàn fún, awúre fọ́mọ ju bó ti ń wúre fún rẹ̀ lọ, apé kọ́mọ ó gòkè kọjá bí ẹsẹ̀ òun gun òtẹ̀ láyé, nítorí ọmọ ṣin kì í là, inú obì ṣin, nítorí ọmọ la ṣe ń ṣiṣẹ́, bọ́mọ bá ti yàn tó ń yanjú, ẹbọ yeye rẹ̀ ti gbà, èmi ń fín, èmi ń tọ́, nítorí yeye èmi ń rúbọ ìwúre nípa ẹ̀bẹ̀, nípa àlọ́, nípa ẹ̀sùn, nípa àìsùn, nípa ìwo ọ̀kan kan ṣoṣo obìnrin tú rẹ̀ sílẹ̀ goloto lọ́gànjọ́ késo rè ó lè faṣọ sọ́rùn láfẹ̀mọ́jú. Èmi mọ̀ kan ṣoṣo obìnrin yìí, èmi mà pátẹ ẹ̀rìn mọ̀, ọ̀gànjọ́ mọ̀, adániwáyé mọ̀, àwí ara tí ń ṣẹ́léra nínú òkùnkùn bírímù dájú ṣáká mọ̀. Èmi náà sì mọ̀ péfẹ́ ni èyí. Bọ́kàn ṣoṣo obìnrin bá ti jòkó lórí awọ, ìfẹ́ ni èyí. Ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí ìfẹ́, ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí adùn, ìyá mi aporúkọ mi bí ìwúre. Ọ̀kan làwọn, ìwọ ò ní tójú ilẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀. Lọ́gán tí mo bá ti gbẹ́sẹ̀ bàtà kínní èmi a máa rántí pé ilẹ̀ lójú. Ojú pọ̀ tó bẹ́ẹ̀ gẹ́lẹ́ káwọn ayégun ò mọyì nǹkan ojú ilẹ̀. Ojú ń bẹ lóríta tí ń wo ni kedere. Ojú ń bẹ nílé òpópónà tí kì í tògbé. Ojú ń bẹ nílẹ̀ ìtàgé tí kì í padé tòjò tẹ̀rùn. Ojú bí ègún, aṣọ ni láì fi gbé ta. Ìkòkò rúgúdú tó farasin gbó bíi pé kì í ṣara gbó. Ẹni ilẹ̀ bá mọ́jú mọ́ irú wọn kì í lè mọ́jú mọ́. Ẹni ilẹ̀ bá fojú kó mọ́ra irú wọn kì í lè gàkàbà dókè. Agbami àṣírí ẹgbẹ̀lẹ́gbẹ̀ ọdún nílẹ̀, kò sóhun tí kì í fojú rí. Ojú ilẹ̀ kì í fọ́, ẹni tójú ilẹ̀ nìyẹn ń tan. Èmi mọ̀ pé kọ́ńtà lójú ayé, kedere lójú ilẹ̀, àmì mi ń lọ kò ní séwu, nítorí mo gbórí ilẹ̀ mo jẹ, mo gbórí ilẹ̀ mo mu, mo gbórí ilẹ̀ ilé òní dà mí, mo gbórí ilẹ̀ ilé òní lẹ̀mí dànù bí òkò. Ilẹ̀ alápòore táráyé ń pè lálápòkà, òlòló, omi gbẹ̀dùn àṣẹdèpẹ̀nù tí ń gbé ní mì bíi kàlùkàlù. Bó bá dà kọlù kọgbà, àkọgbàkọlù, aboyún kọlọmọ ọnú rẹ̀. Ọdẹ ńlá rí mẹ́bìtì tó jẹ, èmi kò ní tójú ilẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀, nítorí ọ̀kan làwọn, ìwọ ò ní láéláé tójú ilẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀. Orúkọ dùn, orúkọ korò, orúkọ ẹni kì í láéláé korò lórí ahọ́n ìyá ẹni. Níwọ̀nba àgbà torúkọ tèmi ò bá kan bí ìbò lẹ́nu yeye mi, èmi a máa fọ̀, èmi ò ní fẹ́nu kọ́, nítorí lọ́jọ́ ènìyàn bá fẹ́nu kọ́ gbogbo ara ní wọ bùbá ẹ̀jẹ̀. Àmọ́ ọ̀kan làwọn, ìwọ ò ní fẹsẹ̀ sílẹ̀ kọ́ ọ fẹ́nu kọ́. Mò ń lọ tètè, mò ń lọ fẹ́fẹ́fẹ́, nílùú tí ò sọ́ba, nílùú tí ò sédùmarè ń kọ́, ìyá tèmi tó lọ́lọ́run. Thank you.
That was beautiful. I think beautiful is an understatement because I can't find Yoruba word. I don't want to start speaking Yoruba and bite my tongue off. But ewì yẹn, ó dùn lẹ́nu, ó dùn létí, ẹ ṣeun gan. So my that was very, I don't even know what to say again, because anybody who came across that for the first time would actually know that this is what you're promoting. Yoruba culture. It is undiluted, authentic. Thank you very much for that. So let me ask you a last question before we go off for today, because culture has always been there from time, since our fathers, since our mothers, even now to present, and we hope to give it to the younger generation. What legacy do you hope to leave for future generations of poets and storytellers?
Well, to be very honest, I think that people who are unpopular opinion, yeah, I feel like people who are concerned about legacy most of the time don't even end up creating legacy. I feel like when we are creating history, we do not even realize that we are creating history. So I believe that the language, I believe that the culture has a tendency of transcending generation. I mean, it has been existing for years immemorial before I was born, and then, it is still here. And even though there is problem of westernization, there's problem of, post-colonial mentality and Anglicization, I genuinely hope that, for everyone who ever has the luck to encounter my work, they are reminded that there is beauty in the language, and it sparks curiosity in them to actually, dig back into their language. And it does not even necessarily mean, maybe Yoruba alone, Igbo, Hausa, every other language that exists. I believe that, there is beauty in diversity. I feel that the problem that we have over time is that we've mixed religion with culture. And because we've mixed religion with culture, people automatically feel that, I mean, okay, something very hilarious happened 2 weeks ago. Someone messaged me on this same Instagram for the first time, and then was like, "Hi, good afternoon. Please, I'm in need of incantations. I don't know if you can help me." And I feel that this is one of the problems that happens when we mix spirituality with culture, because certain people would come across my work and automatically think that, oh, I am incantating, oh, he's pagan, oh, this is fetish, and all of that. But there's a place of religion and there's a place of culture. And I genuinely hope that even though the damage is deep, the damage is core, as long as people keep watching Kotoaye, and then, Nollywood keep making movies where money ritual is being promoted, the damage keeps getting deeper. But I do genuinely hope that, people like myself and, other griots who are genuinely creating art using their language, realizing that it's not just about the language, but it's about the beauty being preserved. And then, for the audience who comes across it, I hope they don't just say, oh, this is beautiful, and they just walk past it. I hope it actually, draws them to go back and learn more about their culture, without the chaff, abandon what you feel is superstitious or what does not work for you. But if you pick just 1% of the beauty, you become a patron, you become a torch bearer. And I say it every time that creating a change in a community is not the job of 10 people. No, it is the job of one people. So of one person rather. So everyone have a duty to spark change within their own community. So if you listen to my culture, if you listen to my works, and because you listen to it, you tell someone else about it, or you tell someone that, oh, Yoruba culture is beautiful, or culture is beautiful, you've unconsciously created a long line of cultural torch bearers, because that person you told would get married one day, would give birth to children, would pass that same ideology to his or her own children. The children will have their own grandchildren. And before you know it, it becomes generational. And, from one room, we get to influence one community. And from one community, we get to influence one state. And from one state, we get to influence the whole world, maybe. So, maybe the question is not about culture dying or culture not dying. Maybe the question is about the beauty remaining. Because as long as the beauty remains, the culture would have lived us and certain. And with platforms like yours, the sky is the limit, to be very honest.
Yeah, the sky really is the limit, and I hope the beauty of our culture continues to live on when we are no more. And for who asked for our guest name is Yusuf Alabi Balogun, also known as Aremo Gemanai. And it brings us to the end of today's Spot On. Thank you so much, Arimogen and I, for sharing your voice, your mission, and your commitment. And I feel bad we were not able to speak about your want to, sell out Yoruba art. I hope we get another platform to speak about that. So thank you so much for coming
Definitely.
today. For everyone watching, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much
for
for having me.
being what?
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much to our audience for being a part of stories and every inspiring session we bring here. Thank you. Please remember to invite your friends and family on Thursdays. See you next Thursday.